It looks like they'll be adding a new mechanic to the grappling hook, or potentially an all-new grapple hook to the item list. Prior to this mechanic being introduced, it was all but impossible to fight the airborne creatures of Embervale from the ground with a melee weapon. But this should change it. It seems with the new grapple it works in two different ways, possibly based on the size or type of enemy you'll be fighting. The clip shows two different varieties of enemies being engaged with the new grapple. Firstly, the dragon is being pulled toward the player, allowing you to attack it with a melee build, which helps with the build being a more all-round character build, and allowing you to focus purely on melee skills in the skill tree, rather than needing to spread your build to ranged abilities in order to combat airborne enemies. I would imagine all your airborne enemies will be pulled towards the character, unless perhaps they introduce larger flying creatures into the game in the future.
We can hold them off.
Which would honestly be an interesting mechanic. If they did introduce a skittish style flying creature that you could grapple to and potentially use it as a mode of transport around the map. Perhaps over time, your stamina would drain and you would be forced to dismount and use your glider to land safely. Now, this is obviously no substitution for mounts, which I'm sure anyone who plays Enshrouded would love to see introduced into the game. The second part of the clip shows the character grappling to a ground-based fell monstrosity. As with the airborne creatures being pulled toward the player, I'm going out on a limb to say at least the majority of ground-based creatures would pull the player to the enemy. Maybe smaller creatures such as the goats and chicken style creatures being pulled toward the player, as I'm not sure if there'll be a follow mechanic introduced with pets and farm animals, although we would expect something along the lines of. This grapple mechanic could be a secondary way to organize your new farm. One thing I would love to see with the new grapple is the ability to grapple to anything. Any form of structure and even larger trees and plants, allowing for more options for the player during exploration and combat. Now, by the looks of the enemy levels in the clip, they will be introducing the new creatures to lower level areas. The clip shows a low level dragon, so they won't just be exclusive to the newer high tier areas. And despite some speculation I've seen, as with progression to new areas extending away from the start point of the game, the areas increase in difficulty. I could be wrong. There may be small portions of the new update that modify existing areas to accommodate the new creatures in lower level areas. But I can't imagine we'll be seeing lower tier areas in the areas above the Springlands, Highlands and Kindle Wastes. One thing I want to point out about the clip is the use of daggers in the second part of the clip. Anyone who has seen my videos knows that one of my sore points of the game is repetition in combat moves. Using daggers was just not interesting and felt a bit like,
you know, if I get him, it's literally just that, basically over and over again.
But a keen eye will notice at the end of the attack on the fell monstrosity, some variety with a double slash to finish the attack combo. I can't speculate as to how in depth this will be, but I imagine it is a form of power attack at the end of the combo. With the way the attacks are at the moment with the dagger, I think it's a safe bet to say that the main flurry attack will stay continuous, providing you keep mashing the button. But holding the attack button or pressing a different key will initiate the power attack. However they choose to do it, it will certainly add some excitement to the combat in Enshrouded. Just quickly also, we have some new weapons and armor being added with the new update, which I think look pretty decent and fit the vibe created in Enshrouded. We can't really complain about more variety in any aspect of the game. I did mention in the official Discord an idea that would, in my opinion, encourage re-exploration of areas in the game. adding stat variation to weapons and armor. So you might find a specific bow that has an arrow and draw speed of 1, for example. But if you were to farm the same bow several times, you may find the same bow with an increased draw speed or arrow speed, or both. Another thing I mentioned was the ability to upgrade unique weapons and armor to keep them relevant at later game. The Dragon Sword, for example, is one of my favorite unique weapons, but towards the end game isn't really effective enough in combat to consider using it. Okay, I think this is enough for this video. Let me know in the comments what you think of the new grapple mechanic and things you'd like to see in the new update. Also, let me know what you think of my suggestions for stat variations and the upgrading of unique weapons and armor. Thank you very much for listening to yet another rant, and I hope to see you in the comments of all my Enshrouded content and in my Discord. Please hit the like and sub buttons, and I'll see you all soon in the land of Embervale.
The blade of Hanzo.